No Western media has ever been allowed through those gates. Until now. $20,000 bikes a day. 8 million bikes a year. There's a pretty high chance that your bike was made in one of these mega factories that you've never heard of. Well, they've just crashed the World Tour party and now we've been given an exclusive Access All Areas pass to a brand that is changing cycling forever. This is China. Welcome to XDS. China, the place where 63% of the world's bikes start their lives. But forget what you think you know about Chinese manufacturing, because this isn't just any factory. This is the XDS factory, one of the biggest, most influential and fastest growing players in the cycling industry. And for the first time ever, we've been given exclusive, unprecedented access to see how they pull it off. 128 CNC machines.
Yes.
That is incredible. In this feature-length special, we'll be taking a deep dive into the tech, unraveling 30 years of carbon fiber expertise, and getting hands-on helping birth their flagship bike, the X-LAB AD9, the bike of XDS Astana. So where better to find out how a World Tour bike is made than here in Shenzhen at the XDS factory, where I believe they're doing more of the processes in-house than just about anyone else. So today we're going to follow one of these from start to finish. To help us out, we're going to get shown around by Vice President of Engineering, James. So with a 9-step bike building process ahead of us, we better get cracking. So, welcome to XDS Carbon Tech, where, well, this is the carbon fiber facility, where we're about to have a tour of how a bike goes from an idea in an engineer's brain to a reality. And up there, those 4 words, well, that means the pursuit of perfection. Okay, so step 1, this is one of the molds that the carbon is going to get laid up into to create one of the X-LAB AD9 frames.
这是我们那个模具的一个就是初配料。这个料我们在买回来之前的话，它是上下它都必须要有这个平面度平面度的话，公差的话大概只有0.05左右一块重量大概是在400公斤左右，400公斤，所以上下的话加在一起的话，应该是将近有800到1000公斤。模具的来料必须要精度要好，然后再上我们的CNC上面，再把它加工成我们所需要的一个型号的一个造型，大概是这个情况。
XDS, because they're doing this on such a massive scale, they've tried to automate as much of the process as possible. But then, as we'll see in a minute, there's still a lot of things that are going on by hand, the more nuanced tasks. So the polishing of the molds, because any errors here is just going to create a load of problems down the line. And that's why XDS wants to keep this in-house. This thing weighs 400 kilos per slab. So I'm going to try and pick one up. Yeah. No. It weighs a ton. Well, actually, it weighs about half a ton, not a whole ton. So this is basically the polishing process. Well, they're polishing by hand so that they can check that it's as smooth as possible. Because any errors here, carbon fiber, when they lay it up, is really susceptible to, if there's any defects, then it's going to transfer into the completed bike. So this is it, the complete mold, ready to lay up some carbon fiber in. And there's 15 components here. The tolerances have to be like minuscule. So this has got a margin of error of 0.05 millimeters. it weighs an absolute ton. So even this piece here is really heavy. I think you'll agree that this isn't exactly what I expected a carbon fibre factory in the middle of China to look like. There is a lot more trees and green space than I was expecting. Okay, so on to the next step, and it's going to be where they're mixing the resin and the carbon fibre. So carbon fibre is made up of two parts. You've got the actual carbon fibres themselves that are providing the tensile strength, and then you've got an epoxy providing all the compression strength. This is the special sauce of the X-LAB AD9. And there's been so much research and development that's gone into that this is actually a brand new formula, especially for the AD9. It's currently being mixed at about 70 degrees. And now they're looking to replicate that across other bikes to make them as high performance and as durable as the AD9. And James just mentioned something that I'd never thought of, and that's how a bike needs to perform at different temperature ranges. So if you're racing the Tour of the Arctic in Norway, for example, then that's going to have quite a different demand to where if you're racing the UAE Tour, where it's often touching the mid 40 degrees. We better leave them to do some more mixing, because this is important stuff. So this is the result. This is after it's been mixed, and it's still warm. So this is basically a cooling rack. It's going to be cooled here, and then, well, we're going to see what they do with it next. So luckily we've got exclusive access, and this doesn't apply to us, but we're seeing stuff that you never normally get to see.
Most modern carbon fibre bikes are made from what's known as Prepreg carbon fibre, where the carbon fibre sheets are pre-impregnated with epoxy resin. Now, it is possible to buy these in, but XDS are making their own so that they can tailor the exact ratios of fibre to epoxy, and hence control the quality and the mechanical properties of the final product.
Oh, I could watch that all day. It's lovely.
This machine here is taking the resin that we saw being mixed and drip feeding it onto the rollers to turn it into an epoxy sheet that will then be added to the strands of carbon fibre later. Because the epoxy to carbon fibre ratio is so crucial, the thickness of this sheet has to be crazy precise, and that's what this light is doing, measuring the thickness of the sheet before it's encapsulated in these protective layers.
One of these machines, they've just told me, best part of $1 million US. And yep, there's two of them, because in their words, why not?
As I mentioned earlier, carbon fibre is made up of two parts: the epoxy, which is now in the form of a sheet, and the carbon fibres themselves. That's what this futuristic spider web is, the raw carbon fibre straight from Toray in Japan.
Each one of these rolls weighs about 4 kilos, has 5 kilometers of carbon fibre on it, and each one of these strands represents 12,000 individual strands of carbon fibre. So that is where the carbon fibre gets its 12K name from. So 12K, 12,000 fibres per strand of this. Over the last 30 years, they've been perfecting this process, and how important it is that each one of these has equal length and tension on it as it gets pulled into this machine. And that's what gives you your really consistent sheets of carbon fibre that can then be cut and made into bikes. So what this basically is the birthplace of our bike. This is the birthplace of an X-LAB AD9. It all starts here.
This is one of the most complex machines in the entire facility, and despite other brands telling us that they're the only ones with this kind of technology, that's clearly not the case. Its job is to combine the carbon fibre strands and the epoxy sheets into a roll of prepreg composite that is as uniform as it is strong. The epoxy sheets that we saw being made earlier are being fed into the machine from above. The carbon fibre strands, meanwhile, have to be equidistant, under the exact right tension, and perfectly parallel to give the desired mechanical properties. Over the last 30 years, XDS have been perfecting this process and have settled on 4 different platforms, each at different temperatures to finally tune the properties of the carbon fibre and make it workable without spoiling. On some stations it's being warmed, on others it's being cooled, and what's being added to the rolls at the end is just one layer of carbon fibre. However, our bikes will need 6, all laid up on top of each other in different orientations.
Okay, so the bells just rang and we know what that means. They've completed a roll. So the number at the top there is how much is on the current roll. So currently 24 meters. A complete roll is 150 meters, and then it gets taken off and they swap it over. And the bottom number is the total for today. So 2,500 meters just approaching. So once they hit that magic 150 meters, they're going to cut it. That's the end of that roll. And they're going to start a new one immediately, because this machine doesn't stop. And then this QR code, it might not look like much, but this is the beginning of a very sophisticated tracking process. You will see a QR code on a completed, fully finished, painted bike, wherever it gets shipped to, America, the UK. Someone is going to be riding around on a bike with a QR code, and they are going to be able to track it back to that roll of carbon fiber. This will be a complete bike in 2 days. And as we're about to see, there's a lot of processing it needs to go through first, because I can't ride this. Welcome to the noisy room. So this is basically where they're cutting those sheets of carbon fiber into the right shapes for the bike. And so this one's cutting the pieces for an X-LAB AD9 right now. It's obviously CNC controlled, so each one is going to be identical. And you can see that they're cutting the pieces as close together as possible to minimize the wastage and get as many pieces out of one sheet as possible. It's incredible to watch, and it's actually surprisingly fast. Like, this is cutting out a piece every few seconds. So this is actually for an AD8, a very similar bike to the AD9 that we've been following through the process. On the bike, there's 6 layers of carbon fiber. And on this table, they lay up the 6 layers, all their different angles, and then they're all being cut at once. They're laid up at 45 degrees to each other. Now, X-LAB have tried and tested lots of different angles, and they found this 45-degree angle to offer the best durability and the best performance when it's finally laid up into a bike frame. So I can't imagine how long it would take to do this by hand. It would be bonkers. Okay, so next section, putting all of those pieces together. And as you can see, it's all being done by hand. So this here is like a foam insert. This is an AD9, and this is what the clever people behind me are gonna lay up the carbon around. Before any of that, it's got to be tested in this plastic mold to check that the form is gonna be right, so all the joints fit and things. So what we've got here is basically an instruction manual on how to build an X-LAB AD9, and it might just be the most complicated Lego set in existence. So there's 304 individual pieces that go into making this frame. Every single one of them laid up by hand. They're all in trays up here, ordered. Take a piece, stick it on in the right place using the tape measure, and then move on to the next component. Although I've stolen the instruction manual, so doesn't seem to need it. Knows this one off by heart. Okay, so in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one someone else made earlier. So this is where it's being logged into the system. So, you know, we talked about QR codes earlier. So it's being scanned, and they'll know exactly what day, what time, what worker made this frame, so that they can do a full quality check. It's also going to be weighed, and this one just has been 750 grams, including that insert. It's got to be between 740 and 768 grams, I believe. So this one is bang on in the middle. So let's see where this goes next. And just like that, a bike is born. After 150 degrees for 40 minutes, out it pops. So when they're putting it in the mold, because it's such a tight fit, they actually have to heat the mold to 100 degrees so that they can get the layup frame is still kind of a bit floppy. And then in the oven, and when it comes out, well, this is what you get. I can feel it even through the heat-proof gloves. I can feel that it's pretty hot, but it is looking much more like a bike. All of a sudden, it's much more rigid. Already, you can see that around the headset, it's looking remarkably clean. Like where that bearing's gonna sit, you can see how clean that is. That is really cool. That's made my week. Okay, so this is where the rear end of the AD9 comes together. We've got the seat stays here, and James was just explaining how the tolerances for these are basically zero. They are identical lengths across, well, all the bikes they're making. And then we have this larger section of the chain stays here. So they get slotted together like this. James is going to show us the bonding process next. Then we've almost got a complete bike. There we go. I've just built a X-LAB AD9. Here's our AD9s waiting. So at this next station, all the parts are being put together. Every gram matters. And so even the adhesive that they're using is weighed out. Only 10 grams is being used per frame. So they've got to use it sparingly. So this is where it's going in the kiln. It is, I can feel the heat from here. In it goes. You wouldn't want to get trapped in there. Up on the board here, we've got 24 different kilns and the times at which each of them have left. This is the only machine of its kind in the entire world. And every bike that comes out of those ovens goes onto it, and this is going to measure the tolerances and check that everything is up to spec. So it's going to measure the head tube, the seat tube, the bottom bracket, even the rear dropouts. And then all of that is displayed on here. So it's measured using infrared sensors, and then it's all displayed on this screen. And James has just been explaining to me what the different numbers mean. And this one is a pass. So happy days. This room is what XDS calls its CNC army, and well, it's easy to see why. In fact, these machines have a total value of over $6 million US, including quite a lot of very fancy 5-axis milling machines. So these are going to drill all the holes, do all the finishing, and do all of those processes that we need to take our AD9 frame to the next stage. So this behind me is a 5-axis CNC milling machine. So whereas a lot of manufacturers will be doing each of these processes one at a time, by putting it on one of these rather expensive machines, they can really reduce the production time. So this is, you will have noticed that this isn't an AD9 frame, but this process is much the same. And it will do the bottom bracket threads, for example. It will drill the holes for the front mech mount, and also do very noisy jobs like this one. I've been in a few finishing rooms before, and they are dirty. They're full of just a smog of dust and things. This is amazingly clean in here. It's taking all of the carbon dust where they're finishing the frames in here. It's sucking it straight out under these tables, and then it's being cleaned through water. And this not only goes far beyond the Chinese regulations, it also goes far beyond the European regulations. And that's how come we can be in here, we don't need masks on. Well, we've come upstairs to the paint shop and there's quite a few interesting things going on. So we've got the X-LAB, the Astana XDS team colours behind me, but on this paint job, look very closely and you'll notice that it's ever so slightly different on the head tubes, and that's because this gold has been hand drawn. Not only that, but on this gold, you see the sort of mottled effect. Well, that's because it's been done with a Chinese tea brush by hand. The white has been hydro dipped, so you lay the paint onto water and then you pull the frame up through it. And I think this is really indicative of the entire XDS process. They've been combining this craftsmanship with the automated processes to be able to do it at this kind of scale. So once they're painted, it's time to apply the decals. And as you can see, that is all happening by hand. So this is an X-LAB e-bike, and this side still is yet to have a decal on it. So let's see them apply some. So this room is all about validating the manufacturing and checking that everything is up to tolerance. So they're randomly taking the frames off of the production line and testing them to check that they match up with the CAD drawings and the designs that the engineers have made. So this machine here is very, very accurately measuring different points. It's so precise that you can see it's in a dip. That's so that to absorb some of the vibrations, because it's so precise that just walking up to it could alter the result. And then moving on, we've got a 3D scanner over here. So this is an AD9 frame that they're scanning, and all the different points on it just help the 3D scanner to pick it up. And then you'll see, as you scan different parts of the bike, it's being built on the computer. And that is so that they can, once again, validate the actual frame that's been built against the original design to check that it's up to spec. And then behind you, there's a 3D ultra depth of field microscope, because how do you see carbon layup? Well, you use one of these. So you know earlier we were saying that there was 6 layers of carbon fiber. Well, now we can actually see them. So under here, I believe that might be a little bit of steerer tube. I'm not sure. And on the display, you can clearly see the 6 different layers of carbon. However, they have got one more trick up their sleeve. They've got a CT scanner. So for those of you that don't know, some of you might have had a CT scan at the hospital, for example. Well, this is a CT scanner for bike parts. The simplified way of explaining it is it's basically X-raying bike parts. So it's looking through bike parts and trying to find, well, any of these defects. So you can see here, the carbon is a little bit too thin. You can see here that the shape is a little bit off. And basically they can put parts in here and check that none of this is happening before it gets rolled out to you and I. Okay, so this is basically a torture chamber for bikes, and every 200th bike is being pulled off the production line and it's got to undergo this testing. So this one is, well, midway through, it's 50,000 cycles, so that's going to take about an hour and a half to complete. And I mean, it just looks horrible, but I mean, it does give me more faith in the bike I'm riding. You know how disc brakes apply more forces through your frame? Well, this one is being tested. So 20,000 cycles on this one, just continually flexing the brake bolt holes to check that it's up to standard. I don't think there's any part of the bike that isn't gonna get tested. Okay, so welcome to the X-LAB production line. So this is where they all get put together. So we get a bare frame turn up here, and the workers are then adding the XDS crankset, the mechs and things like that. We move down a line and the wheels get added, and also a chain. So you might have noticed that the bikes are continually moving along this conveyor belt. They don't stop for anyone. And then by this point, we've got what is basically resembling a complete bike. It's got chocks in the brakes so that if they get pulled in the box, it doesn't matter. We've got protective padding being added. so it doesn't get scratched in the box until we get to the final step. It's getting put in the box and then shipped out all over the world.
Before they got the chance to box this one up though, it mysteriously disappeared from the production line for a sprint around Shenzhen. This is an X-LAB AD9, not too dissimilar to the one that the XDS Astana team have been winning on. There are a few differences though. Whilst the frame is identical, the wheels are from in-house brand Branta, as are the carbon cranks. The rest of the build is Shimano Dura-Ace, and the cockpit is also built in-house by X-LAB. There's not many brands that can lay claim to this many components, and having spent the previous day watching XDS forge stems, extrude handlebars, ultrasonic weld frames and hydroform tubing, it doesn't seem like there's much of the bike building process that XDS are reliant on anyone else for. And that kind of answers the biggest question that I came here with. How can XDS or X-LAB rock up at a world tour race and almost immediately have a bike that can compete? Well, the answer is not only that they're a lot more established than many of us know or think, but also because they control the whole process right the way from the design stage to making the molds to laying up the frame. It means that they can get a bike from design to distribution in about half the time of those well-known brands.
Okay, well, we've come across the city to the XDS Global Flagship Cycling Station, and this whole exhibition centre is it's not about turning a profit. This is about giving back to the community, and it's really interesting to see what they're doing here. Currently, the Chinese champion is here giving some instructions, and they teach you how to maintain a bike, they teach you how to ride a bike. Also, the development pathway, trying to get more Chinese riders and the local riders into racing and into the world tour. I think that this is absolutely great for cycling, and if the Chinese don't have a champion in the next few years, then it's not for want of trying.
After browsing X-LAB's full range of models and colours, as well as a 3D map showing the sprawling bike lanes of Shenzhen, we headed to the XDS headquarters to get a closer look at the culture and people behind this gigantic bike building empire.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
现在我们所在的位置呢，就是喜德盛集团的心脏地方，还有我们全球的大脑中心。那我们的创始人谭董也在这里上班。那这里的研发团队是全球喜德盛最强大的研发团队，就在这里上班。制造的最重要的生产基地，还有我们重要的首样都在这里打造。另外那个区域呢，都是我们的生活啊、员工娱乐啊，还有展示啊，还有国际优先赛道啊，就在那一面。写的个为之，写的是为之则易，不为之既难。那这里有为什么要这样的场景呢？就是我们想要树立一种喜德盛人的一种敢为人先、敢于创新、全力以赴去做，没有做不成的事情。
Every bike that comes out of this factory with either an XDS or an X-LAB name on it has been designed in that building just there. Another interesting point is the importance of this fountain and why it's outside the headquarters, and how the water actually resembles prosperity rolling into the country. And this down here means 30 years of motion. That is the rough translation. And yeah, XDS has just celebrated its 30th anniversary. So it might be a new brand to us in the US and in Europe, but there's over 30 years of history within these walls. So I think that seeing what we're about to see is going to break quite a lot of misconceptions about, well, Chinese factories in general. And as you can see, well, I certainly didn't expect it to be this pretty. This tree behind me is around 600 to 700 years old. It's been hand selected by the chairman, and it's his favorite plant in this whole facility. Now there's 4 facilities run by XDS. This is one of them. This is one of 3 in China, and then the 4th one is in Cambodia. And what this tree represents is the attention to detail that XDS take with all of their products. All the products go through those factory gates. This is the living quarters for some of the XDS employees. There's 3,000 people on this site, but there's 10,000 across the world. And so this is a cafeteria, there's dormitories, and a lot of the employees can stay here for free. They just pay for the utilities. And yeah, they really do live here. This is their home. There's some schools just across the street. There's a really prestigious university as well. And that noise that you might have just heard, well, that's the high-speed rail route from Hong Kong to Beijing that will get you there in around 6 hours. There's also a bike incentive scheme, so workers can earn 1 RMB unit for every kilometre ridden. I think the current exchange rate is about 11 to the pound, so ride 11k, get a pound. So if you want an idea of scale of the company, then this gymnasium should give you a pretty good idea. It'll seat 2,000 people and they regularly use it for events to, in their words, preserve the culture of cycling. So they can do presentations, they can have guests in here. They also use it for kids events, and they set up small jumps, ramps and things. So the under 10s are often in here because it's a really big safe space. And yeah, imagine having this at your work at home. It would be unbelievable. Okay, so the showroom. So these are the mountain bikes that the Chinese national team have been using. This full suspension one, the frame weight is 1,110 grams. The complete build is 9.4 kilos. And these are the bikes that the Chinese national team will be using at the 2028 Olympic Games in LA. Okay, so they're particularly proud of this bike because not only has it done 110 kilometers an hour in a race, but it also has the signatures of the chairman of XDS and also the head of Shimano. So yeah, that's why this one's got pride in place in this showroom. So it's not just about XDS Astana. XDS have been sponsoring lots of other teams for some time, including the Chinese national team for several years now. But there's also the XDS team and then the XDS Branta team, as well as, well, a few others that you can see here. So just behind me is the next generation of X-LAB bikes. This isn't even released yet, but I think it really highlights how quickly and how agile XDS and X-LAB can be, because they have all of these production processes in-house, from making the tooling to doing the carbon layup themselves to putting all the bikes together in-house. It gives them such an incredible capability of developing new products faster than just about any other bike brand on the planet. So we've just come out of the showroom, and well, there's an entire test track here where they can test prototypes, and they're also training some kids. Well, this guy trains the kids.
Hello, Jimmy.
Nice to meet you.
好，大家好，我是喜德盛小熊车队的总教练。这是喜德盛公司呢特别为中国山地车伙伴们打造了一个具有叉西还有我们的downhill。那这个场地呢是在2010年的时候，在打造的当初呢是为了cross country 的场地而设计，所以在路线上呢做了一个符合 UCI 6公里的一个越野的赛道。在2025年的时候，我们把它打造成一个针对青少年朋友可以骑行的一个具有 dirt jump 还有 fork road。那在这个场地呢，每个礼拜可以吸引到300到500个小朋友在这里做一个我们这个dirt jump 还有downhill的一个练习这样子。
Well, I would have loved to have given that test track a go, but something more important has come up. We've been given the opportunity to interview the chairman of XDS. Now, this doesn't normally happen, so this is, well, about as exclusive as content gets. But first, I've been invited for a cup of tea, but not like one you've seen before. Well, Chairman Tan, thank you for joining us. I hear that you were an engineer before becoming an entrepreneur. So can you share with us the founding story of XDS and the original motivation for starting this company?
我是学机械工程的，毕业以后的话，在一些大型的自行车公司在负责研发和设计。我对自行车的生产工艺和技术非常的了解。为了实现我的抱负，也为了有一个我自己实施我才能的机会，所以我带着这份技术出来了自己创业。
Comprehensive vertical integration is it's very difficult and it's very expensive. So I'm wondering, why did XDS choose this, to be honest, harder path, and what is the strategic significance behind it?
30年来，随着我们业务的不断壮大，我们的生产规模的话呢，也不断的快速的扩张、快速的发展。为了掌握核心的前沿的生产技术，我们不断的投入，再投入。我们30年来只专注于做好自行车。我们希望说，我们能做百年企业，永续经营。
Now, we've been learning a lot about the XDS brand, but the brand that might be more familiar to many of our viewers is X-LAB. So I'm keen to get to the bottom of the original story behind X-LAB.
So the founding of X-LAB stems from the XDS 30 years of in-depth dedication in the bicycle industry. So over these 30 years, we amassed a wealth of the core technology, covering the manufacturing, the engineering capabilities, but also extending to more in-depth of the research of the material science. And X-LAB was born as this result.
For many brands, the innovation mostly happening on geometry, aesthetic, shape. But XDS, we are taking the innovation to a much deeper levels. So we are thinking a lot about material science, about physics, chemistry. We're thinking about how alloy and carbon get constructed. So we can truly push the limits for engineering and science so that our riders can push their limits for fitness and endurance.
From the moment the tooling is made for the mold.
And that's made here.
That's right here. That's, 30 feet away. From the moment that happens to the moment you put the bicycle in the box, from that entire process, what you're going to get is this absolute transparency, visibility, and control for every stage of what it means to build a superior bike.
Why is now the right time to expand into other territories?
So first, in a down market, the consumers are actually more picky and more value-driven. We see the unique opportunities is to providing that product that deliver the fundamental, the quality and performance. So the other thing is that since we sponsor the team Astana, we have seen so many emails, requests all over the world from dealers, potential rider to buy an XDS bike.
I want to be able to have the product satisfy both elite cyclists who are on the tours, or someone who's brand new to cycling, or someone who may never have even picked up a bicycle since they were a child. And this piques that curiosity. For me, it's a very exciting thing to have.
What is the vision of XDS and X-LAB going forwards?
I think it all goes down to make the premium bike accessible for everyone. So if I take a step back, look across the consumer industry, so there's no shortage of high-end products, really cool technology. But the company who can build a really large business is those one who can make it accessible to the mass market. So for XDS, I think our job is to deliver that. On one end, we are pushing the limits for engineering and performance. But on the other hand, we are leveraging every resource and capability that we have to bring down the cost so that the bike, the riders can actually afford and purchase the bike.
The biggest difference between us and the other brands, I think, is that we adopt the systematic engineering design. So when we developing each bicycle, we do not only design the frame, but treat it as a entire bike and as an integrated whole. And this is also why our race bike have delivered outstanding performance in the world competitions, enabling the Astana team to race from the bottom to the top 4 in the world rank.
What excites you most about the future of X-LAB?
So first, I hope X-LAB can become a household brand worldwide. So second, developing many more advanced technologies. So we aim to gradually apply these technologies into our latest products in the future.
I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's who makes our bikes, how they make our bikes, and why they make bikes. For me, coming to China has been massively eye-opening, and I'm happy to admit that I certainly had some preconceived ideas about Chinese manufacturing that, well, they've been proven completely untrue in this case. I also learned that Kung Fu doesn't just mean fighting. Instead, the true translation is more about putting in the hard work, paying due diligence and paying attention to the details, and the reward of being dedicated to a venture. In this case, the reward for us is the X-LAB AD9. And whilst it is a very exciting bike, having seen what XDS are doing here, I think it's only the beginning of the story. A huge thanks to XDS for inviting us here to China and giving us unprecedented access to everything we've seen. If you enjoyed this type of content, then please give it a like, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest bike tech, and if you want to see what X-LAB are up to, then drop them a follow on Instagram. We'll pop a link in the description below. Right, I've got a plane to catch.